Success through financial aid planning. You are joining us today for a webinar focused on financial aid planning tools and tips for advisors. Today, we at MoneyThink are so excited to share with you our new tool, Decided, and the accompanying advisor dashboard for educators and college access programs, while sharing with you some great tools available through our partner, TuitionFit. Now, first, let's talk about some logistics. This webinar will be recorded and it will be on the MoneyThink YouTube channel by next week, where you can also find access to our student video and past webinars. Second, we invite you to use the chat to give us any feedback and respond to any calls for responses we may put out there. Third, we have a Q&A and we'd like you to please put all questions there. We don't want to lose your important questions in the chat, so the Q&A is the best place for it. And last, we will activate polls so that we can get to know our audience a little bit better, and we'd love your engagement. Let's start with the first one so we can get to know you. Please take a brief moment to complete the poll that will pop up on your screen momentarily that asks who is on the call. And that information is just going to be for us. So we'll go ahead and put that poll out, and then we'll start going as soon as we get some responses. All right, thank you everybody for participating. Excited to have folks joining us today. So today you are joining our friend from TuitionFit, Mark Salisbury, CEO and co-founder, who's going to share with us all of his knowledge and expertise around college affordability and financial aid planning with the tool TuitionFit. At MoneyThink, I'd like to introduce you to college financial coach and partnership coordinator, John Tamrat, and myself, Meredith Curry. You can call me Mare. I'm Director of Education Partnerships for MoneyThink. At MoneyThink, we believe that students make college plans a reality when they understand how to manage their financial aid. So first, we wanted to just share that MoneyThink is an innovative nonprofit that helps students seeking financial aid achieve college success by supporting financial decision-making. MoneyThink harnesses the power of people and technology to bring transparency to college costs so that all students are equipped to invest in their futures. We do this by developing tools like Decided to empower students like you to invest in the future by building technology that clarifies college finances. A little bit more on that later. Decided encompasses our 10 plus years of expertise in supporting students and families with financial literacy and college access work. We've combined our expertise with student-centered design to inform the creation and development of Decided, resulting in a tool that is student and family-centered and takes the guesswork out of college affordability. A huge thank you to our supporters like the Taco Bell Foundation, Capital One, the Charles Schwab Foundation, and Prudential. We also want to give a shout out to thank the various organizations that have signed up for today's event and those we have partnered with over the years. We partner with local nonprofits, platforms, and scholarship organizations to bring financial aid planning to students, their families, and to educators like you who are their champions. That's also why we partner with TuitionFit. And to tell you a little bit more about the value of TuitionFit and who they are, I'd like to now introduce you to Mark Salisbury, CEO.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, John. It's really fun to be with you. TuitionFit and Decided is a wonderful combination of tools, and we're really excited to be a part of this webinar today. TuitionFit really comes in at the early stages of this college search process when you're trying to find the list of schools that you're going to look at more closely, but you want to make sure that that list of schools is a group of schools that you can actually consider because they'll be financially possible. And TuitionFit allows you to be able to find those institutions customized to each individual student user's both their financial need and their academic merit. And then TuitionFit sets up Decided to be the tool that you can use to start looking more deeply at all of the information that's necessary in making the right choice amongst the schools you applied to. And TuitionFit also sits in sort of a support role that if the schools you've looked at aren't necessarily going to be the best fit, Financially, TuitionFit can show you everything that's going on with other students who've applied to other schools and are also considering different awards at the same time. So you get to see all of that information as well. And the whole idea here is so that we can set up students to succeed in college rather than just get in, because the goal here is to finish and succeed in life. And that really sets up what I think is the so fundamental in knowing the context in which TuitionFit and Decided have partnered. There's a massive problem in the higher education space, both in terms of information available and affordability. Post-secondary education is a critical precursor to life as an adult and economic mobility, as well as financial stability when you may have to change careers. And yet, navigating the process to get into college is almost famously complicated and opaque. And the result, of course, is that this makes the process so much more difficult, especially for students who are first generation, who are coming from low income, and are already intimidated by the idea of trying to figure out their way through this process. The affordability issue sits right in front of the set of issues that come up, and in a most recent study looking at the affordability of colleges and universities across the country, less than half, or if you want to go at the four-year schools, about 25%, 27% to be exact, of the schools really identified as affordable for low-income students. So finding those institutions is already a challenge. And this plays out in such a way that it really affects lower income students more than the rest. You can see that from recent research shows how much different that issue is for students in the highest income quartile against the students in the lowest income quartile. One thing that is important to add here is when you think about students that are Pell eligible, students that qualify for federal-based need, they don't graduate at the same rates as students who don't qualify for Pell. And then Pell eligible students are twice as likely to have student loans. And then on top of all of that, this Pell eligible graduates who have those loans, they're borrowing more than students who borrowed who weren't Pell eligible. And you've got a real clear intersection of a problem with affordability and a problem with information. So that sets up what is now a serious problem of a $1.7 trillion student debt crisis, fueled by this opaque pricing problem. And of the huge proportion of students that drop out of college, 70% of those students indicate that this is about financial concerns. So you've got this problem that then shows up in the way the process works. First of all, it's very difficult to find out what your actual price is going to be. In fact, the system is designed that you don't find out your actual price until after you have applied and been accepted. It's almost as if the system presumed that price didn't matter. And then when you get that information in the financial reward letters, it might as well be gibberish and crayon for a lot of folks. There's 143 unique phrases. And I've seen those phrases. They don't make any sense to anybody who wouldn't know what they're supposed to mean already. 30% of letters include the grants, but don't have any information about what that would be taken from. So there's no indication of what the exact total is that you're taking the money from. So there's no way to know what your actual costs are going to be. And then a whole bunch, almost a third of letters don't differentiate between what's a scholarship or financial aid money you don't have to pay back and loans when you actually do have to pay back. And that problem sets up families to end up really being stuck and misinterpreting what's in that award letter. So with all of that to say, let's just look at the way that we have traditionally looked at this college search process. The way that we usually start it is we start by, well, let's compare colleges. So we start by comparing colleges. And this is something that we're doing without a lot of information. And when that happens, and Mayor, if you can advance the slide here a bit, you start to see that just because these schools have fancy pictures and fancy buildings doesn't necessarily mean that's all the same. So if you start to continue to see through this animation that we plugged in here, different schools that look relatively the same can be wildly different prices just for the first year. And you wouldn't have known that by just looking at the nice pictures. And this is the challenge that folks are stuck with. So starting by comparing colleges, no, this is really a bad way to do it, because you've got 4,400 give or take colleges and universities in the country. Asking any one student to actually narrow through all of those things is a pretty difficult task to do. And inevitably, if you ask people to start comparing colleges, they're not going to know which schools are which, and they're inevitably going to eliminate schools that really would be a great financial fit. And conversely, they'll pick schools that would be a terrible financial fit, but you don't know what you don't know. Without knowing the actual prices, we increase the chances of an affordability crisis. And that affordability crisis can hit right at the beginning, and the student says, you know what, forget it, I'm not going anywhere. Or, and some would argue with good reason that this is worse, that affordability crisis hits a year or two in where they've already got some debt, and now they have no degree but debt. And that is probably the worst situation to be in, not to mention the fact that you've sort of broken the soul of somebody who really had the opportunity to go to college. So setting that aside for a second, this is a terrible situation to put people in. And this is why we say start with price range. Identify for yourself, for your students, what is the price range that we're really looking at? It can be wherever you need it to be at. And once you can identify that price range, the idea then is, if we move that animation forward, we start to see that some of those schools on this longer list might not necessarily work out. And hopefully this animation starts to show that we pick a min and we pick a max, and then all of a sudden, yeah, there's a whole bunch of them that aren't going to work. And when we do it this way, we now are able to simplify the process. We build a better college list so that every school that a student actually looks at and applies to and then gets in, there's still a plausible option at the very end of the process. We start to make value-based decisions on whether that school is worth the price they're asking you to pay. And we end up getting a better final price because you can negotiate with schools to get your price down, but you have to have enough leverage, and you have to have confidence, and you have to have information in order to know that you can do that. So all of that to say, this is what we built at TuitionFit. The idea was, let's build a cooperative process where all those financial aid award letters that are on kitchen tables around the country, families can share that information to the cloud that is TuitionFit, I suppose. And then what we do is we organize and anonymize the data so that you can go to TuitionFit, and if you shared one bit of information, you get to see all of the other data that other students just like you have shared, or students like yours have shared. And now you can compare prices just like you would with a Kelley Blue Book, with a TrueCar, any of the ways that we ensure that we're looking at products that we can actually afford in the first place. We're going to do the same thing with college prices. The nice thing about TuitionFit is that students and families obviously can use this for free, share an award letter, see data, come to the TuitionFit without an award letter and still start to see data and get a sense of a list of schools that are going to be in price range. But then you can link TuitionFit between a counselor's free account and the student's account, so that then college search advisors, you can simply look over the virtual shoulder of your students and see what used to be the student would only have applied to 4 schools, and so they could only see this stuff. But since they shared to TuitionFit, they can now see all of the other prices that other students just like them are getting. And as a result, in this particular example, this student is saving $10,000 over 4 years of college simply because they have better information. And we now simplify this process so that every student can have a clearer, simpler path and really show them you can go to college. You can go, you don't have to worry about this sort of last minute thing going to jump up and bite you in the ankles. You can actually go through this process and know that this is a reality for you. So with that, I want to share the screen or send it over to John. And John, I want you to take over because this is now where Decided really becomes the most powerful tool of any tool that's out there.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, for going over that and sharing TuitionFit not only with us, but hopefully with everyone else that's viewing this, because we think it's a critical tool and it coexists with Decided perfectly in unison. So we're excited to keep this going. As we mentioned at the beginning of this our webinar, our mission at Moneythink is to bring transparency to college costs so that all students are equipped to invest in their future. Decided is a free tool for students to use for planning for college by helping students understand if the financial award packages are offered are affordable or not. So once a student knows how affordable a college is, they should be able to consider whether or not it also meets other fit factors like diversity, graduation rates, distance from home, and possible earnings. Because as we've both spoke on today, the money that you put in your investing is really for your own future, right? So you want to make sure you're getting the return on investment that you're really paying for. And currently, as we've kind of discussed further, students are making ill-informed enrollment decisions that's based on really confusing data. And many advisors don't have the capacity to support students in understanding this complexity in their award letters. So even for college access orgs that are out there supporting students and families with things like this, some of you on the call might be doing it. It's very laborious and the support is not readily accessible to a whole bunch of students, right? And a lot of families that really need this. So Decided, just like TuitionFit, is really trying to reshape the way that students can go about making enrollment decisions by providing them all the important information they need in one place, therefore removing some of the stress, the uncertainty, confusion when making enrollment decisions. Decided further works to take the guesswork out of affordability by really using our optical character recognition tool. And for those of you who don't know what that is, if you actually take a screenshot of your checks with your phone and to have it mobilely upload your payments that you're getting from work and other places, that is what it really essentially is. And we're using that tool, combining it with automation machine learning to help it transform confusing, complex award letter images by allowing students to take that picture of that award letter and instead getting in return a very clear, consistent format that's easy for them to understand and really to look through to figure out what is their best option when they are considering everything that's in front of them. And again, Decided objective is to help the student not only make a decision, but make a holistic enrollment decision, right? That's going to be informed with accurate understanding of the cost of their college options across all of them. And then the intended goal of increasing the chance of the student obtaining their bachelor's degree with a sustainable amount of debt. This can be attained by students by one, helping them to quickly and accurately understand all their award letters so they know what their options really look like. And then two, supporting them comparing the affordability of their options so they can further make their enrollment decision based on all information, all the context that they need. And three, finally, know the full cost of the college cost and have a plan and creating a plan to pay for it down the road, right? Because as we've already discussed, if students are not ready, families are not ready, these unexpected costs have tremendous impact down the road, right? Not even just their first year, second year, they may drop out their third year because they ran out of money and financially, they get stuck with that burden and they take on all the risk. And we're trying to mitigate so that it's not always 100% on the student and families taking all the risk financially, and then not enough exposure is left to the colleges for not returning that investment. So one of the most confusing parts of award letters that students and families have stated to us over and over is really understanding what the actual bill is. So essentially, what should they expect to be responsible for? Well, let's walk through the use of the tool using a student, and let's call her Alex. Once Alex uploads an award letter to a college on Decided, she'll be able to clearly see and understand what costs she'll be responsible for, and Decided will automate the calculation of all the free money on her award letter, meaning any grants and scholarships will be applied to the cost of attendance at that school. Once that calculation is done, Alex then will be able to see what is left over to cover under college bill for expenses due directly to the college. So those are all the billable expenses that you should be expecting to pay. For any expenses that are not due to the college, they will be reflected underneath the life budget for expenses like personal expense, travel, books, and supplies, A lot of families and students aren't aware of this or don't properly plan for this. And this is what that could really trip them up because they concentrate on the college bill and then forget about all the unexpected costs that may come up. So this is where we're trying to elevate that understanding and equip the student and families to better prepare moving forward. So Decided really is there to demystify the process that's very cryptic by design, right? So after Alice uploads her award letter to the app, she can immediately compare all the school options and all the award letters that have been given to her. The most pressing information like basic affordability is presented at first glance. Colors, thumbs up and down makes markers help her make sense of the cost. As Alex scrolls down, she can access other relevant information about the school, like the graduation rates, diversity, campus environment, and even average salaries after graduation, so that she can really look into what value this has for her. By simplifying key aspects of the college fit, providing all these data points at the fingertips, students like Alex are empowered to move forward with confidence and optimism with their enrollment decisions. Alex can make a decision that doesn't just focus on fit, but also affordability. So at Moneythink, we consider a college affordable if the gap is less than $7,500. When we talk about affordable within Moneythink and Decided, we're really looking at a Pell eligible student, right? And within that circumstance, how can they afford college within their own means? And then for any student that is not Pell eligible, these guidelines still are very relevant because they can use other resources that are available to them, but the general guideline still holds true. So that means that a student will be able to cover this gap of $7,500 reasonably with a combination of loans, work, family support. As a student will be able to do this by taking also no more than $5,500 in loans and potentially working 10 hours or less during the school year. So now guess what? Research shows that approximately, as we stated, 30% of award letters include no cost. This means that students see how much they're getting, but don't have the expense to compare it to. So what good is it to know that you're getting $20,000 in grants if you actually don't know what your gap is, which you can calculate only if you know the cost of attendance. We consider a school with a gap of around $7,500 to $11,500 somewhat affordable. These schools can still be an option, but it may mean needing more support from family, work, or taking out more in loans than our recommended guidance of $5,500 and potentially working more than 15 to 20 hours during the school year. We consider a school with a gap of $11,500 or more as unaffordable. At these schools, a student in this position will struggle to cover the college bill, even with family support, working well in school, and taking out more than the recommended amount in loans. Again, I want to reiterate, taking a large amount of loans is risky due to having high monthly payments when you have to pay them back, raising the risk of defaulting on loans in the future. And working over 20 plus hours a week can also be very detrimental to your success in the classroom. So our goal is to make sure we put the student in the driver's seat by equipping them with the information they need to make a strong, well-informed enrollment decision and better plan for the future. As Mark stated, research shows that 70% of college dropouts are linked to pressing financial concerns. A major factor of this is due to the students facing high unexpected or unplanned financial costs that lead to students taking out more in debt, so loans, or needing to work way too many hours while in college to cover the cost. That is also going to have detrimental impact potentially on their success in the classroom. So to combat and mitigate these unexpected and unplanned financial costs, Decided provides further supplementary support through our guides and recommendations on financial planning and how to effectively leverage money from yourself, from family, how to utilize work and work study, and how to utilize loans as part of their financial plan to cover costs for the upcoming year. So if Alice or her parents has a question or wants to learn more, they can refer to these helpful guides. Okay, now let me hand it back to Mert, and she'll discuss a little bit more about our Decided platform and walk through the advisor dashboard.
Thank you so much, John. Had a little bit of trouble there with the mute. So thank you so much, John, for introducing us to Decided, especially to how students themselves can use this free web-based app, especially right now to start navigating their college search and application steps. I also want to just thank again, Mark, for all that fantastic context at the beginning to remind us, especially as advisors in this space, The information that we know from last year is not the same as this year. We're seeing the numbers tick in directions that, aren't great in terms of FAFSA submissions, college application submissions, enrollments. And so now is really the time to support our students in informed, holistic, comprehensive research and decisions about both where do they apply and where do they end up deciding to go. And that's not easy for us, for those of us in this space that are advising students, right? And there's a lot of reasons why. I mean, our roles during the financial aid process is multiple. We're either providing guidance or discussing options. And ideally, we get there, we're able to have a fruitful discussion once students have a certain level of knowledge. And that's another piece of the puzzle that we end up supporting, the college knowledge in terms of the key financial terms that Mark and John have shared with us today, really clarifying and deepening your knowledge about these choices that you're making around financial aid, and then providing financial literacy opportunities when we're able to. We facilitate workshops. We implement tools like Decided and TuitionFit. So there are a lot of things that we are responsible for doing to support students through this process. And we really hope that you're hearing that in a lot of ways, both TuitionFit and Decided can support with multiple areas of the with many of these different milestones, from supporting that college knowledge to helping to deepen understanding to providing the information that can help to make informed decisions. So what else are we dealing with? So there's all the stuff that we are doing. Then there's what we're challenged by to ensure that our students really are getting that one-on-one level of support so that they can navigate this very challenging situation with whatever resources that they have available. So we've explored the challenges, that our students face, but as advisors, high school counselors, mentors, there's so much for us to cover through the year, whether it's building college lists, helping them apply. We also have seen from the context provided at the beginning and the student experiences John shared that college affordability doesn't always make it into the conversation. And sometimes resources exist and we know how to utilize them, and sometimes we don't. And we hope that so far we're starting to provide some ideas for how you can use the tools that we have. Then as advisors, not only are there more students to serve that can be served, but there are also too many tools and no clear direction on how to use the full toolkit, and no consistent training with the crucial terms and concepts, and not enough time. And that's why we see Decided as not just a tool in your students' toolkit, but yours as well. Decided can help students to be more self-directed, answering their own questions and building their college knowledge using the app. And then you can see that same that same information with the advisor dashboard and use it to support more intentional conversations with your students. So Decided has launched, and again, it is a free web-based app. It's launched and we'll be launching the advisor dashboard in just a couple of weeks. We'll be sharing our outreach toolkit, advisor guides, and more. And you'll have access to more events like this and to our advisor sign-up form. If you go to decided.org, you'll find all of this information and more, including our advisor tab, where on our advising landing page, you can sign up to get access to our advisor dashboard. And thank you to those who already submitted forms. To support you, we'll have resources like videos and checklists to make it easy for advisors to integrate Decided and the dashboard into already scheduled college and financial aid planning activities. And the partnerships team, composed of myself and John, are here standing by, ready to support you in thinking through an intentional approach to using these tools with your students. We encourage you to request an advisor dashboard. And when you do so, you will be able to sign up for one of two different account types. So either you will be an admin that can create accounts for other advisors, or you'll be an advisor whose job it is mainly to manage students and groups. Either way, admins and advisors do have access to manage students and groups. The benefit of the advisor dashboard is that you can see at a glance whether your students are on Decided or not. So we obviously encourage students to use the tool, and we know students find these great tools without our help. But if you want to get connected, same as Mark shared with TuitionFit, you'll be able to connect the student's account to the advisor's account. And then as an advisor on my dashboard, when students opt into that connection, I have a list of all the students who are in the organization. I can see if they've added any colleges. And I can also see if they haven't added a college yet. Like for this student, it says no college added. And this is designed to help advisors like you keep students engaged in the process. So even if they don't have an offer letter yet, students can add the list of schools that they're interested in or applying for and get some pretty useful comparative information. So let's say, for example, you found a college you're really interested in, especially learning about more about the affordability by going into TuitionFit. Go ahead and add that college to Decided and use that as a way to make sure that you track your application and upload your award letter later, and see if the information jives with what you were able to research. And if I'm a high school counselor managing a caseload of high school seniors, I can use this dashboard to see which of my students are on Decided and which action items they've taken. So an important note regarding student privacy, again, it's an opt-in for students. If a student chooses not to join the organization, then you won't see them in your list, but they'll still benefit from being able to use Decided, and you can find another way to share that information with them. Um, and then I would just want to share that here on the Students tab, you see that you get a good snapshot excuse me, of how all my students are doing. And if they are Pell eligible and students have added their award letters, they can see of how affordable those options are. And in this situation, I've just drilled down into a student account. And so I can see how many colleges they've added, whether they've uploaded award letters or not. And again, same as what students see, I can see exactly the information that they see so we can have a thoughtful conversation around the same information. Our guides are the same guides for advisors as they are for students, also that so you can collaborate around the same terminology. Um, let's see. I guess I just want to also share that, I think it's important just to reiterate what John shared earlier. John and Mark have been honing in on this idea of student college fit really having to do with affordability and all of these other important indicators, such as graduation rate, diversity, and how those play a role in the students' fit for their colleges. So as an advisor, you're able to see that same information, that same level of detail by scrolling up and down through the student's profile, and can help them manage those important decision points. Maybe this college is showing that it is affordable, but it has a much lower graduation rate for my demographic. Maybe it's farther from home than I'm comfortable. So all this information is right in your fingertips as well as your students, so that either of you can take the initiative to start a conversation. So with Decided, students can track their four-year colleges in one place, track their award letters as they get them, upload them for a real-time analysis, and compare their awards to make an informed choice. And then as an advisor with the advisor dashboard, you know which students are engaged on Decided, you can see the colleges they have applied to, you can help track the awards and support follow-up to colleges if needed, and extract data that you can use to tell a current picture of how supported your students are at the colleges they're applying to. So that's the advisor dashboard. And just wanted to note that we are also developing an API. So if that's of interest to you, be sure to reach out for more information. Now, let's go ahead and close out with some key takeaways, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So a few quick takeaways. We encourage you to have your students use Decided after they have complete their applications. They can actually start to use it now so they can track the colleges that they're applying to. We encourage you to get the advisor dashboard so that as your students are doing their thing, you can support them, track and know which of the students in your group are using the tool and which are not. And use TuitionFit to explore financial aid packages for college before. And also there's a lot of value based on what Mark shared earlier to even looking at that data as you're receiving your award letters. The leverage is important in this situation. I'd love for Mark to talk a little bit about that as we go into Q&A. And lastly, we didn't go into detail in this webinar as we do in the student and family webinars. So we encourage you to go to youtube.com/moneythink for the Moneythink channel. In the webinar, we go into much greater detail about loans, scholarships, work study. We encourage you to use that webinar as well as the different Decided guides that we have to help your students build their college knowledge and to also help you to deepen your own capacity. And so with that, I'd like to go ahead and start to open it up for questions. And I'm going to, let's see, let me leave it on this slide. And first question I have is for Mark. So Mark, would you mind explaining, just in case folks didn't catch it, so how can students and advisors sign up for Tuition Fit? And is it free?
Yes, sorry. Yes, Mayor, thank you. So the easy way to do it is just to go to tuitionfit.org, tuitionfit.org, and you can sign up for free right there. You can create an account as a student, or you can create an account as an advisor. We call advisors college search professionals. And you can pick whichever kind of account you want to build. It's free to create an account. And as soon as you've taken about 3 minutes to build it, you can start using Tuition Fit to identify schools that are going to be in your price range if you're a student. And if you're an advisor, you can, as soon as you've set that up, you can start to have your students share access with you, so you can link those accounts together and provide the students with some guidance that they can really benefit from, based on the advisor's knowledge of what these schools are like and some of the information that they would know about those institutions.
Super helpful. Thank you so much, Mark. And it looks like same question back at you, John, but for decided. Is it free? And it sounds like Mark said it takes about 3 minutes to get set up on Tuition Fit. How much time would you think it gets to get set up on Decided?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. Yes, first and foremost, Decided is free. Our intention is to provide the information directly to the students to empower them. So that's why we're not trying to profit from this, because we see this as a bigger issue in our society with the student loan debt. And so our tool is there to try and be a solution and support, create a better solution, better pathway in the future for our future workforce. In that regard as well, our app, it's not an actual app, so it's not something you have to download for students. It's a web-based. That means you can go online, search for it, and then interact with our tool directly on there. And the reason we specifically chose to do that is based on accessibility. We want to make sure everyone has access to it, and we know not everyone might have a phone where they can download an app or iTunes or whatever you may need. So this makes it the most easy and accessible platform for students.
Awesome, thank you. And there is a like question for the advisor dashboard. And just piggybacking off of what John said, the advisor dashboard is also free. You would go to decided.org to access both the student and the advisor account. The advisor dashboard account takes a little bit more time to get set up than a student account, only because we have to set up the organization and then get the advisor account set up. So it does take a little bit more than 3 minutes, takes about a few days, but we encourage you to get the form set up, and we'll be able to get you started. All right, so we have just one last question. I'm going to direct this to Mark and then to John, and then we'll close things out unless you have any additional final thoughts to share with our audience. So Mark, how would you recommend using Tuition Fit and Decided together? You gave a little bit of that introduction at the beginning, but if you wouldn't mind sharing that again with folks, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, I think this is a really important piece of the puzzle, especially for us at Tuition Fit. What we're doing is really trying to pull together data that's been just scattered across the country and millions of award letters. And this has created this huge problem of the public just not knowing what they don't know. And using the Tuition Fit data, you can see the range of prices that are out there and the different kinds of prices that a student like you is getting from institutions all over the country. But that isn't the place that people should think that they would stop by any means, because there is a big difference in institutional fit for different kinds of students. And there's a big difference in really trying to figure out getting the most you can get for the money you're going to put into college. And Tuition Fit doesn't deal with any of those issues. We're just organizing the prices. And that's where Decided becomes critical, because that's where a student can then use Decided to see that here's two institutions that are relatively similar in price, but one institution has a far better four-year graduation rate, or one institution has a far better average salary 5 years after graduation, or one institution is clearly a more diverse, more student-focused institution. Those are incredibly important details that really matter in assessing fit. And you can't really assess ROI unless you have that I, the investment number. But then you have to think about the R. So tuition fit, we deal with the I, and then decided helps you figure out the R. And the two together really help a student and an advisor come up with what really is the best fit, what's really going to be the best value, what's going to have the best ROI.
Thank you so much for that, Mark. Super clear. Really appreciate that. And John, anything you would want to add to that, and any other insights you want to leave for advisors before we close out? And then Mark, any other final thoughts from you as well?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think I 100% agree with what Mark just said. And I think these two products are very complementary. And I'm super excited, one, not only as a advisor who supported students, but as a student myself who went through that same factor. And when we're speaking on this, like I'm just reliving my own pathway of I went to a college because I felt that's what everyone needed to do. Didn't recognize anything about the investment. How do I get a return? So I got through it, luckily, right? But I also have family members that went through it, stopped, and then luckily came back and finished, but they could have easily stopped out because of financial reasons. And the great thing that excites me about Tuition Fit is really supporting the idea of like, how do I structure my thinking of colleges? There's so many. Okay, how do I minimize it based on affordability and what's going to be best for me? And then Decided comes in to show in the next layer, right? You've gotten your grouping of, financially affordable institutions that you're looking at that are viable options for you. And then within that, there's also different level of degrees, right? And sometimes it may be okay to take out a little more in investment because you truly feel like that place that you're going to go to, even though it's not the most affordable, has the best opportunity for your career, has the best networking for your career. It really, you get a sense of belonging on being on that campus. It's going to help you succeed and be successful. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? Because as educators, we want to promote going to college and getting our degree because it helps for you to move up in social mobility. We also know the earning difference between a college graduate and non-college graduate, but we've got to convey that in a better message and really empower the individual to actually make that decision. That's what I really truly believe that Tuition Fit is really trying to do, along with Decided. We're really trying to empower the student to understand and take a little more ownership, so that way they don't feel like they just have to go through with whatever the system's given them, right? We want them to be educated consumers when it comes to their future.
Thank you so much, John. And I would just close out that, and we're very excited to be able to, share these tools with you, the advisors, directly. These tools are meant to support students, but they can be incredibly helpful for you as you're starting to navigate these conversations with students around building their college lists even earlier than the high school senior year. We didn't have access to this level of information. So a huge thank you again to Tuition Fit for taking the onus to collect this data and provide it in such a way that folks can use it to advocate, for the best possible college experience. And I think, part of the onus is on us to make sure that we know that these tools exist. We use them when we can, and we build a best practice of using data to inform decisions. And we do that in organizations. We want our students to build that practice early on in their lives, because this is one of the first and most important financial decisions that they do have to make, and all their choices for career, graduate school, and everything is informed by how much debt that they end up being left with, and if they have a degree at the end of it. So I just want to say a huge thank you again to John and Mark. And I just want to give Mark, if you, is there anything else you'd like to share with folks around Tuition Fit and how to get a hold of you?
Sure. Well, one, you can see my contact information on there, and I really did put a phone number on there, and you really can call me. I'm glad to provide any kind of help I can provide. And I want to sort of equally, if at least equally, if not more so, shout out to Moneythink and Decided. The students making decisions on this process is so often that they feel sort of disempowered and sort of stuck with whatever they get stuck with. And when that mindset kicks in, that sets up the likelihood of it not working out because you don't feel like you have any control over that. And what we really need to change is this sense of you do have some control over your outcomes, and you set that long-term goal out in front of you, and then you know that if you make this choice, these are the options. If you make that choice, it's the options. But if this doesn't go, you can come back and you can take control of your situation. If we can empower students with that mindset, they're not just going to succeed in college, they're going to succeed in life. And we're going to finally hit that goal that we've all been setting, that young people can go through an educational process and really be empowered as successful adults. So I'm really excited to be teaming up with y'all. And I think the two tools together give people information and then give people guidance on how to make use of that information to make better choices.
Thank you so much, Mark. And John, thank you again to you. Just want to say thank you on behalf of MoneyThink to everyone. My email is posted. I did not provide my phone number, but if you email me, I'll provide it. But please visit us at decided.org. If you go to our events page, John and I hold an office hours about twice a week. So you can join us on Tuesdays and Thursdays to ask any questions, get some support thinking around implementation. Maybe you have more questions about TuitionFit. We're happy to answer what we can and also help to direct you to Mark. So thanks again, everyone. Thank you so much, Mark and TuitionFit. Everyone have a fantastic rest of your evening. And as we close,